Hello and welcome to week 3, episodes 5 and 6 recap of the ESPN documentary The Last Dance on the 97-98 Bulls. It is me, your boy Boomy, at Boomy TCF. Make sure you follow the main page at typical_Chicago on Twitter. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and especially on YouTube. Go to the search bar, type in typical Chicago fans, and subscribe to the page there. Thank you so much to our sponsor, Lodi Tap House. Some amazing food they still got going on, curbside pickup. Just call in, they'll bring your order out to you. And at the Maple Park location, you can get your growlers and your crawlers so you can get some really good craft beer to go along with the delicious food. We have to recommend that you get the cheese curds because those are absolute fire. You can't go wrong. There's a Maple Park location and a Utica location. So hit them up on Facebook and get your to-go order set up any day that you can. With me tonight is Matt Schoolfield at schools_01, Zach at Z Lilia TCF, and Gameboy at TCF Gameboy. Like I said, we just finished up week 3 of The Last Dance. We saw episodes 5 and 6. I know personally, I was actually very surprised. I thought maybe the quality of these would go down just a little bit as time went on, but they've actually gotten better. I don't know what you guys think on that.
I think it's just getting better and better. I think the viewership's just getting more and more. Like you're starting to really get into more of like the Michael Jordan aspect of it, not like his teammates aspect of it. So I think it's gonna get better and better. Like I said, I kind of listen to some of the stuff like going into the next. Like I like to listen to stuff on Monday, like especially Chicago sports radio. It's all centered around it. They got some people like that are like directors and stuff of The Last Dance on there, and they were kind of saying that the next 2 episodes really focus on Michael Jordan, like the player, and really go in depth on that. So I'm really excited for the next few episodes too.
Definitely, definitely. Matt, Game Boy, what do you guys think, man? Are you guys still enjoying it as much as the first 2 weeks?
Oh,
I
of
I
course.
thought. Oh, I'm sorry, Gamer. Go ahead, man.
It's awesome still. I mean, weeks 1 and 2 were unbelievable, but this week was just different because you got like Michael Jordan, the man. You got to see a little bit like what it was like to be him for a day, and not just like the best parts of it. You got to see the tough parts of being the biggest man in the world, and everybody having all their eyes on you. So I thought that was pretty cool just to see that like that outlook from him. Just looking back at it all.
Definitely.
Yeah, I thought it was cool. I'm kind of on the same thing. It was like you see the robot that's on the basketball floor. It's just an absolute basketball robot, an assassin on the floor, one track mind, kills the opponent. Then you see like there's still a human side of it with people. They kind of highlighted like it was flaws. I don't necessarily think gambling makes somebody a super flawed person, but especially someone who can absorb any kind of loss. So it's not really necessarily gambling when you can afford to lose. But outside of that, I'm sure we'll get to that. But it was a phenomenal episode for both. I thought both 5 and 6. I thought episode 5 was better. I thought episode 5 might have been. It was probably one of the most interesting episodes of the whole thing so far. I think it was just a different look compared to just like the basketball and the construct of the team and things like that. So I thought it was really neat from that side of things.
Definitely, man. I can't agree more. Let's jump into it. Our favorite moment. I'm going to start, and I think this goes to the 30 for 30 on the Dream Team, but the practice of the Dream Team Olympics when they were in uh, it, I can't remember exactly what town they said they were in, but the practice where it was Jordan going against Magic and Barkley and all the trash talking going on there, like that, they should just play that whole practice on a loop on ESPN when they got nothing going on right now because that is just pure basketball porn. I mean, that was definitely my favorite moment.
It was awesome to be able to see, like, listen to be able to like know what they were saying to each other, to the
Yeah,
trash talk,
Yeah, the audio
and
is almost better than the video.
yeah, Michael was down at the beginning of it, and like the way that that Magic Johnson said something to him, and then was like, "Oh, I probably should not have done that." But yeah, that was just some of the greatest basketball players of all time on the same court playing in a scrimmage game. It's awesome to see.
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah. I mean, like, I, there was just apparently there's audio and video of the whole thing, like every practice, every session. that somebody has documented somewhere. And if you can get a hold of that footage and make another 10-parter, you could do a deep dive into just the dream team alone, what they did for the game of basketball, how much they shaped even where we're at today. There's a really good chance you probably wouldn't know who, someone like Giannis. You wouldn't know who Doncic. You wouldn't know a lot of these like Euro players and things like that have come over in part because of what the Dream Team did over there. That side note, you can't get enough of it.
Yeah, it is.
There was another
awesome
good 30 for 32 was the Dream Team one. If you haven't seen that, go back and watch that one.
Oh yeah. My favorite part was when Michael Jordan was talking about Kobe in that All-Star game at the beginning of episode 5. And the way he was just like you kind of find out throughout these first few episodes that Michael Jordan just doesn't throw around compliments and isn't like he's gonna tell you what he feels. And for him to show that much attention to a 19-year-old basketball player out there, and for what he was like, oh, that Lakers boy, he's gonna take you one-on-one, and he is, and you could just tell that he could see himself in Kobe. And just the first 5-10 minutes of episode 5 were my favorite too, just to kind of hear Kobe say, I don't like to hear when people say, what would it be one-on-one with me and Michael, because there is no Kobe without Michael Jordan. Like I'm not winning 5 championships without Michael Jordan. So it's just cool to hear the real relationship that they had, and like he's like, that's my big brother, and like it's just you can really tell that too when Michael Jordan spoke at Kobe Bryant's memorial, and how he got so emotional. Like no one really realized how close they really were.
Yeah, I agree. I think the first couple of minutes of episode 5 were awesome for those exact reasons, because you got, Kobe, before his death, talking about, thinking about looking back at Jordan and the relationship they had and the impact that he had on a young Kobe coming up in the game, and that's why Kobe was Kobe. And I think it was cool that you got to see Jordan from the get-go when Kobe was 19 had that respect and say, you know what, like he just takes it, like he played like a young Jordan basically, and I think Jordan saw that and appreciated that in him. And that was awesome to see from a get-go.
Oh yeah.
Definitely, that was one of my favorite. Like, I actually missed the first 4 minutes. We were a little late getting home, but luckily I DVR'd it and I watched it over. The stuff with Kobe was just, almost brought you to tears, man. That was just really cool to see how that relationship formed there, and like they showed with the All-Star game and how that respect kind of started, and where, that relationship really truly did begin. And I think it makes a great point when he talks about, I hate having these conversations about who would beat who. And like, maybe it makes you step back and say, like, maybe we can stop with all this, who's the best player of all time, because, without Michael, there is no Kobe. Without Kobe, there's no LeBron. Without Michael, there is no LeBron. Like all of that, without Larry, there's no there's parts of those people that play into what created all these guys. And I think that was a cool way of looking at it, and kind of makes you step back and think about what's going on now. I want to jump to surprising moments, things that jumped out at us, and I want to start with the Atlantic City thing, because like Matt said kind of early in the intro, was that it's not a big deal. Like, people obviously want to blow stuff up, and Phil Jackson, I thought, did a great job of talking about wanting to take down whoever the guy is on top. And like, it's such a nothing thing that he went to Atlantic City and gambled for a little while. And I think another point was made that like him losing $10,000 gambling is like me or you losing $10. He wasn't gambling out of his means. And I just never, that was all happening when I was 3 and 4 years old. So obviously that was a little bit over my head, but to realize how big of a media blowback that was. They had the guy in Chicago sports radio like, this is just irresponsible. This is not having the goal in mind, which is an NBA team. It's like, dude, piss off. That's such a nothing story. It just kind of like bothered me at how big they made that.
Yeah, I thought that was hilarious.
It's weird too, because now how important gambling is to sports now. And I know he was just like gambling blackjack. He never really they never said that he ever bet on like sports in general. He said he only bet on himself, is what he said. Yeah, I only bet on myself. So he bet golfing. And I kind of thought it was interesting to think like maybe he went golfing because like this. I was listening to, I think it was like 670 this morning maybe. that he would maybe want to go golfing because that's you get away from everybody. The
Right.
media can't get to you there. It's you and 3 other people that you get to pick. And like maybe that's kind of why he picked the sport of golfing, and also because he likes to gamble on it. They said he would gamble on literally anything you do. They said with the security guards, he would play the court closest to the thing. They said he would gamble on like luggage at the airport and stuff. How quickly he would get it, who would get it first. It was just like, just you. That's just another side of Michael Jordan. That's just like superhuman almost.
Definitely.
Right. I got to go back real quick to I got to scratch something on the favorite part real quick. Was the when they highlighted the '93 playoff run? There was a third title that they had in the battles with the Knicks. I don't know if you guys how much of that you guys got to see growing up or remember or hearing about or whatever, but that was every bit as close to what the Pistons was in terms of rivalry, and they could never get over the hump. It was kind of like the little stepbrother who just keeps smacking down and keeps trying to claw his way back in. He keeps smacking him down again. Those games and that run in that playoff series, especially in '93, was awesome. The dunk that Starks had, I'll get to that in a little bit too. That was a defining moment at one point when you thought maybe that run was coming to an end, and all of a sudden it was like, wait, Michael's got this in 3 and 4. Bulls flipped the switch and just cleared them out in game 5 and 6 back in the Garden, and 5 back in Chicago in game 6. So I don't know. That playoff run was outstanding. So it was one of those that I'll never forget. So
I loved how Jordan was kind of like, they were trying to be like the Pistons, but they were no match to us. They were not. He was no. I just like how he was like we were better than them. He's like he's like talent for talent, we were better than them. I just love how he still just hates everything to do with people who wanted to beat him back in the day.
Well, how about with Paxson too? Like he kind of came off like as a sympathetic figure, man. Like you got to see the basketball player that Paxson was there for a minute, and that guy was a damn good player, and he was an important part of that team. And obviously in '93 hit a big shot for him, man. And even in the first title, he sealed up game 5. He was a key cog, and he was a perfect complement to Jordan. And him and Jordan were on a team back in the mid '80s together too, so they played a long time together. So I don't know. You kind of start seeing that. Yeah, he sucked as a team president, as a general manager, or whatever. But still had to hold the place in Bulls lore for sure.
Definitely. I think him getting fired right before this may have helped him. Like now he's he's done with that. People are gonna watch this, and maybe he can move on with like being the basketball legend in Chicago instead of the guy that people kind of wanted fired for a very long time.
Yeah, we can see him light all over again.
Right. Yeah. Well, how sweet were those 3-peat hats too, though? The white one that they had with like the 3 championship trophies on the side with each year on it. Those things were sick. Get your hands on those things. But sorry to go back. I'll jump into my surprising part too, real quick. Was just how much they went into the politics side and, like you said, the gambling side. I was really surprised about Jordan having editorial control over it. I thought they'd maybe get into that stuff, but maybe more on the surface side of it. He actually talked about it, and I thought that was kind of cool. So,
yeah, he was saying like the Republicans buy sneakers too. Like he said, it kind of got out of context and like whatever. It still
is even like seen today with the whole LeBron and China stuff. Like it's a very, very similar situation. It's like wow, not much has changed in 30 years.
Can I ask you a question though? Like, how did that guy win either way? Like, he seemed like a pretty big piece of shit. The guy who was running for it. Who I don't know what
Southern Republican, man. What do you?
I mean, that was North Carolina in the late '80s, man.
I'm just saying, like, well, that was I thought it was early '90s. Wasn't he winning
1990, I think, wasn't it? Or 90.
I'm just saying, like, that's I guess 30 years ago, but like the way that he was openly like.
He was a long time politician too. There, I think he was a career.
That's crazy.
Politician.
There was a lot of politicians still into the '90s that were in power when segregation was still very legal and very accepted in parts of the southern United States.
So. It's just just weird. Like that was only 30 years ago. That's weird.
Yeah.
That's weird. My most surprising part was Michael Jordan's lungs. That man smoked cigars and 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 then won 6 championships and like
Yeah.
was the most competitive person of all time. Wanted to practice, was in great shape, but he smoked a cigar. There was that video of him in the hotel room, kind of saying like he likes getting away from people. This is how I get away from people, and he was smoking a cigar there. He smoked a cigar everywhere. Like the best athlete of all, the greatest basketball player of all time, was just smoking cigars all the time.
It makes it look cool too. Like
Yeah, it
anything
makes
he
it
does
cool.
looks cool.
Nothing
Like
wrong
I
with
see him
it.
smoking a
Absolutely.
cigar, and all I want to do is go out and just buy a bunch of cigars and watch Sunday night, just puffing them the entire night.
One time you heard Michael
Could not
Jordan
agree
go,
more.
One time you heard him go, oh, man, like something from the cigar smoking.
Right.
It never
He's got to be
ever
able to
did
do it
he.
now. Well, it's not
No.
going to happen now.
What I mean is like he had great lungs. He
Yeah.
never. I don't know. Like I've never
And
really
no
smoked
one
a
made a
cigar.
big deal out of it either. Like, imagine if
No.
like Steph Curry rolled up to a game smoking a cigar, it'd be like headline news that like,
Well, they
you
were.
know, oh, what is he doing to his, you know, how's his lung capacity going to be tonight and all this stuff.
They were saying that the director was kind of saying that, like showing him smoking cigars, maybe like in the locker room and stuff, and kind of showing the other side of Michael Jordan, the be like Mike, the other side of that. Like people were they said it was kind of hard to get that footage and like get it out because they were it's just one of those things that's not the Michael Jordan everyone really thinks about.
Yeah. Well, and Mike made a point in it when they were in the locker room after the game. He's like, when I came into the league, guys were drinking beers at halftime, getting cigarettes from the coaches. So,
Can I this is kind of like off point. How about the quote he said that was like about him being a role model? He's like, yes, yeah, I understand. Like
that was beautiful. I literally laughed out loud to that.
I set examples for myself and everything, and like I am. But if you don't like it, like
maybe I'm
not the right
person for
guy.
you.
Like that's true. Like I guess that's true.
Dude, Barkley got a ton of heat in the late '80s and early '90s. He had an ad campaign with Nike that he said, "I am not a role model," and he caught a ton of flack for saying that back in the day.
Yeah,
and it stuck on him for a long time. So that was a big deal, kind of. Now that Jordan says that, as much heat as Barkley took back in the day for it. So it's kind of interesting. It's kind of the same thing how the roles reverse with gambling, like you said, with cigarette smoking and cigar smoking in the locker rooms. Nowadays, it's not accepted at all. Gambling is accepted. Back then, gambling wasn't accepted, but smoking was. So, everything flips on its head.
How the tides have turned.
drinking Miller Lights in the training room.
Nothing better.
That's a thing of beauty. Other than Miller Lite's disgusting. But
what?
Did anybody get their favorite favorite surprising moment?
I think my most surprising moment, for me personally, was I didn't realize that Tony Kukoc knew like nothing about what was going on with the Bulls. Like that was so surprising. Like because he obviously at that point he'd been drafted, he just hadn't come over. Like you think he at least keeps some tabs. Like how do you not know what's going on? Like with Jordan and Scottie Pippen, like the two biggest players in the world. And then they come over, and he was just so shell shocked at the fact they hated him, and they wanted.
Well, he was kind of like in a war zone.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he was.
He didn't really have time to like care what the Chicago Bulls were doing on this. He was just trying to.
But I feel like even nowadays, like when teams draft a guy, like I feel like they still, would keep them in the know of like what.
Yeah.
Like
you telling me Jerry Krause wasn't calling them.
That coverage wasn't worldwide though. There was no internet.
Yeah, that's true.
He probably knew they were winning championships.
You couldn't go on fucking YouTube and watch videos of people.
Yeah.
He's probably winning They knew they were winning championships, but he didn't know like that Scottie Pippen hated Jerry Krause and like Michael. That kind of stuff.
That was the whole thing with the Dream Team. That's what globalized the game, and that's why that whole thing was so big. And you look at the way they didn't call a timeout in '92. That's how much dominant they were. Yeah. How much more dominant they were.
Bro, they won that title game by 32 points.
They didn't call a timeout the entire Olympics. Didn't
need to.
And like, they were destroying people. So that as much as anything is what spread the game across the world, and then internet obviously.
And what I loved about it is that Kukoc got his bell rocked in the first game against USA, and then in the gold medal game he comes out and actually plays a really good game and showed like why he was so coveted by Jerry Krause and the Bulls. And
Yeah.
I think him doing that probably gave Jordan and Pippen a little bit of respect. Like, hey, this guy can help us out in the future, And obviously at that point, Jordan probably didn't know he was going to retire, but down the road, he did. Kukoc was a huge part of the second three-peat.
How perfect was his game for nowadays, too?
Oh, he
that's
could have
they
been a
said they were
star
talking about that
today.
today. They're like, he would be a 10-time All-Star.
6'9", 6'10" guy that can, handle the ball outside, can
Shoot
shoot
the three.
long,
Oh.
good
Absolutely.
athlete.
Let's jump into our favorite person, and I'm sorry I got to steal him right away. It is the late John Michael Wozniak.
I knew it.
We should switch this up because you get to pick first every single time.
Well, it is what it is. Without a doubt, the guy that kind of stole the show with, gave Jordan back his own shrug move. Just this little, I mean, he was maybe like 5'6", in there playing some quarters game with Mike, and it was just a great, like you talked about earlier, the humanizing side of him, and like to see him lose a game of quarters to a security guard. That was beautiful. I really enjoyed that.
You realize that guy's like a decorated, like long-time narcotics officer.
He was a narcotic
in Chicago too.
You know how we got? Do you know how we got so like close with Michael Jordan?
Yeah,
it was like
great
he
story.
crashed his like vehicle and like did something to it, and he ran right in to tell him, and like I guess that won over Michael Jordan's like love for him, and he was paying him until he passed away, I think a few years ago. He had like a long battle with cancer, and Michael Jordan paid him throughout that. So I mean, they became really good friends. There's pictures of him. He's got pictures of Michael Jordan and like the security jacket that he wore and everything. And it's like, it's just cool to see the kind of relationships that Michael Jordan built with people that a lot of people didn't even know of.
Yeah, I guess his kid texted Jordan last night after those, that clip showed on the Last Dance, and he said Jordan responded right away, and said how important his dad was to him and stuff. It tells you he's not all a complete asshole, man. There's a spot somewhere down there that he's genuinely cares for people that care for him. So.
Oh yeah, mine's gonna be a little weird. It's Charles Barkley because you kind of forget how good at basketball Charles Barkley was. Like he's this goofy guy on TNT with Shaq, and they're messing around or whatever. But you don't realize like he was an amazing basketball player. Like he was so good. And like I don't know why it's always like kind of just seems like it's forgotten. I know he didn't win a championship or whatever, but so did not a lot of people like during that time. There were a lot of back-to-back champions back in that day and stuff like that. So I'm gonna say Charles Barkley just because it kind of reminded everybody that like he's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, I agree. I thought that too.
I think Charles is actually my favorite person too, because not just what you saw on the court from him, like the highlights, like he was a dog. Everybody knows that, but him talking to a camera is just not better. Like he's my favorite analyst in all of like sports. Like, oh, he's the best, and he's not doing anything like special. He basically just speaks his mind, and he says a really funny way of doing it. And I loved the insight from him even back in '93. When they won Game 5 in Chicago, and he was like, "You better take those stuff off the windows. Like you aren't celebrating tonight. Like we're going back to Phoenix." And then really like, I don't think we realized just how close every game was in that series in '93. Like Charles Barkley, everybody knows he didn't win a ring, but he was a lot closer than we think. Like he was pretty close to beating the great Michael Jordan in the Bulls dynasty. Like he could have done that basically by himself.
He had a great quote in there too when he said playing Mike was the first time he ever had the realization that he was playing basketball against someone better than him, and that was mind-boggling. I mean, think about all the guys that he had played against and stuff like that. So I thought I was very impressed with Charles.
Well, how about even when he said like when they were playing again after they played Tony Kukoc, that he. What did he? I don't know how he said it. Tony Kukoc or something like that.
Yeah.
And he goes like, yeah, that's why Scottie Pippen should get paid. Like they're trying to bring this guy over. Like he used to try to say that stuff even like he didn't care what he said even back in the day.
Definitely. There's definitely some carryover.
Matt, I need to know your favorite.
a little bit, and it was Tony Kukoc. I thought he like
Came off really
Gamer
well.
said with after the way he got shut down, suffocated in the first appearance against the Dream Team. Took his beating. Played really well in the second game back, and you could see that when Jordan mentioned it, how great of a teammate he was in the run that they had with the second repeat after Coach came over and Jordan came. You can tell he earned his respect over the long haul as a teammate. But even then, like even after that first game, Pippen kind of said he couldn't play in the NBA. Whatever. Jordan said, I think that's unfair to say against the best players in the world right now. So
11
I think even then, Jordan could see that there was probably some talent. So I keep saying, but he fucking Drazen Petrovic with the. You get kind of a backstory of what Zach was talking about with the war-torn Yugoslavia after. Or 30 for 30, Coach had a presence in that one too, as being close friends with both those guys. So, fascinating background, cool guy. It seems like good player, really good player, great bull. He was awesome to see him.
For sure. I got to give Dennis an honorable mention here. And he didn't have a whole lot to do with this episode, but when they were at the golf course and Phil asked him, you guys go to the pool? He's like, nope, going to Hooters.
That's a dumb question.
It's like, why would you even ask? You knew the answer to that. Jumping to our least favorite person, I will go last because I actually have a list of a couple people, so I'll see if they get taken off the board. So whoever wants to jump in.
I'll go first. It's Richard S. The guy who wrote the Michael and Me book, the guy who was mad at Michael Jordan because Michael didn't pay him back and then wrote the whole book about it. Like, I thought that was pretty weak.
Yeah.
For that guy to do. Like, it was just a weird thing to do. And I already know somebody else is going to take my next one. I have two, but I'll let somebody else take it. Somebody who wants to go next?
I mean, for me personally, I actually didn't dislike really anybody in there, but there was one where I just didn't understand, and it was Justin Timberlake. Like, I just did not understand why he had the one quote about Jordan's shoes, and then it's just gone.
I think he's got something to do with
Jordan. He might have something more later on.
He said he's like, oh, I did chores and mowed yards. Like, dude, you were on like the Mickey Mouse Club or whatever.
I'm pretty sure he had money. Like, he was rich.
You didn't mow no damn lawns for no shoes. You were on TV.
Yeah, let's keep that in. Yeah, let's keep that in check a little bit.
I was very confused by Timberlake.
Yeah,
I totally valid complaint. I got something to add to that in a little bit too. My least favorite person, I'd say, it was John Stark. He didn't have a speaking part of the in the documentary, but fuck that guy. He's right up there with most of those Pistons players too. Honorable mention to Sue Bird for saying her favorite.
Oh, you took mine.
So Sue Bird, you're out. Get the hell out of here.
No, but I had Sue Bird on my list as well. Yeah, it's like the whole documentary. She's like, "Oh, my favorite memory of Michael Jordan was him getting dunked on by John Starks." It's like, no,
Starks dunked in his face.
You need to be a part of this.
Yeah, go away.
Yes, I also had Sam Smith, who
that's mine too. Why even write the book? Why write the book? Like, it makes no sense. Like, oh, I think it's gonna bring everyone together. I can't want to tell why everybody's mad. Oh, maybe it's because you wrote a book about why Michael Jordan is kind of like disliked by some people in the locker room. Like, oh, I wonder why that's gonna make him mad. Like, just dude, come on. And now he works for the Bulls now. Like, surprise there.
Yeah, I think he's the lead writer for Bulls.com.
Yeah, he's been with Bulls for like 30 years.
It's crazy.
Yeah, and I also had Horace Grant on my list because I still don't believe him that he wasn't the one that was snitching stuff. And then I know he was only on screen for like 30 seconds, but Isaiah Thomas, when he's like, I had all the qualifications, I don't know who. It's like, dude, no one likes you. Just go away. Like, just accept the fact that you're a douchebag and no one likes you.
Yeah, that astounded me that Isaiah Thomas still to this day believes that he had every right to be on that team. Like, yeah, he was talented. Like, he was better than John Stockton. But my God, like, horrible. Like, he's such a bad person. Bad team.
Did you guys see that Ryan Russillo tweet? It was like, oh, yeah, it's okay. Everyone was a big fan of Isaiah Thomas afterwards. Everyone got along with him. Like, it's not a big deal. Like, no, everyone's hated him after. Like, he's he wants to like bring this up, like this is the reason why everyone's mean to him. But like, dude, what you did after your career was even worse than what you did while you were on the court.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
you're a piece of shit, dude. Like, come on.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's jump into any complaints or things we thought we were going to see and maybe didn't. Does anyone want to start?
I feel like Jordan is really defensive though, still today. When
Oh
things
yeah.
get brought up, like he does not want to go into like anything about his gambling, which I understand. Like it's his documentary. Like I'm sure he doesn't want to talk about stuff. It's not about supposed to be about like that stuff, but I feel like now would be a great time for him to just lay some crazy gambling stories out there and just kind of talk about it. And he's just very defensive, still saying like, "Oh, like I think Sculpey, you said it earlier. Like, it's not a problem if you can pay it off no matter what. Like that dude
Yeah,
had
Yeah,
money
right.
for days. Like he had no
He's like,
problem paying anything off. But
my
it's like,
family's not starving.
but it's like you can talk about like you can still have an addiction and be fine. Like you can still just talk about it. Like it's
Right.
gonna be cool. But he just very defensive.
yeah, he
Still
has
doesn't want to
some
talk
very
about it.
The only thing with gamblers is a lot of gamblers don't like talk about it. Period. They don't talk about how much they win. They sure as shit don't talk about how much they lose. So like once you don't talk about that side of it, it's like a lot of the story loses itself. So it's
Yeah.
I don't know. Like
I kind of wanted to get
there
more into that. Like I wanted to get more into the shady side of like
Exactly. That's what I wanted to see. Is like the
who
shady.
was
I
the
don't think
guy
you'll
that he was
ever get that
buddies
from
with?
him. You'll get that from other people. You'll get
I
that from
agree.
Oh,
other
well,
people.
Slim
You won't
Boular
get that from
guy.
him.
Yeah,
Slim
who?
Boular.
Yeah, Slim, who has the golf clubs in his sketch drawing.
That
Yeah.
had to been. I think that was
It's
was
classic.
placed in there.
Absolute classic. Absolute classic.
But like, yeah, and I just like I want to know more about that. Like there was all these checks to random people for big amounts of money, and like, but I love the way he said it. He's like, I was gambling on myself. Like I never like people kept trying to speculate that he was gambling on his basketball game. Like even if he was, he's not going to gamble for him to lose. He's not going to point shave. Like you don't understand like his
Yeah.
mentality on the
I
court.
think you know who we're dealing with here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they got a little bit too much into that in a way.
I would tend to agree with that.
Especially because now, like, oh, and I also would like, I understand they kind of said like it had nothing to do with the story itself, like what they're trying to tell. But I would like to know like what Michael Jordan really thought of Charles Barkley after the comments that Charles Barkley made about how he thinks that Michael Jordan had too many yes men around him. Like he kind of brought up the Adam Morrison draft and how he went up to him and was like, "You're really gonna take Adam Morrison? Like you got too many yes men around you and stuff like that." And Michael Jordan took offense to that, and I guess they haven't really had much of a friendship. I wish they kind of would have asked Jordan about that because I would like to get a reaction, but like I said, that's when they weren't looking for that. But I would like to figure that out a little more. Like, are they friends again, or what's going on?
For sure.
Well, they're definitely going to protect Jordan a little bit in this too.
Oh,
Like they're
yeah,
not
and
going
they
to
said it had
allow.
nothing to do with the storyline either. Like they're not talking about now; they're talking about back in the day. Like that has nothing to do with it. They probably asked them so many questions anyways. They're like, we're not gonna throw that kind of stupid question in there.
Yeah, for sure. Matt, any complaints?
Just one. It kind of goes back to what Gamer was saying a little bit ago too with Timberlake. I really don't give a fuck what actors or celebrities or politicians or anybody else thinks about the Bulls. Like it really provides nothing of any benefit to the documentary at all. Like it's just more like I don't know. Justin Timberlake wasn't at the forefront of Bulls fandom in the '90s, so let's not act like he was. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I don't know. It's just weird. It's like a weird addition. It's just they have the eyes. They didn't need to sell the documentary with with celebrities essentially. You
Yeah.
know? So I don't think that adds anything. It doesn't kill it by any means. I'm not saying
No, he was in there for like
it's just
a
I'd
second.
rather I'm sure they've got other footage though of like former teammates and other guys, competitors that he's played against over the years and things like that. I'd like to hear more like just candid stuff from those guys.
Exactly.
Some more stories on some of the trash talk on the floor. You could see like even the exchange he had with Gary Payton, where Gary Payton's like, good, maybe we'll see in the finals, and Jordan's like, yeah, I hope so, and he's like, well, you guys will make it, and he's like, yeah, I know we will. I don't know you guys so, and it's,
Yeah.
so Jordan just even giving it to him right there. It's like I that stuff's awesome. Give me that over, what, Timberlake or Oprah Winfrey or whoever else. I don't really care.
But
Definitely.
like you said, at least they only put it in there for like a second.
Right. And it's not like overdone. I shouldn't act
Exactly.
like
Yeah,
that, but it's definitely the one thing I'm not a fan of.
Mhm.
I agree.
On the other hand, and this kind of goes back to Maddie's point, one of my favorite Bulls clips of all time was Scotty dunking on Patrick Ewing, shoving him to the ground, and then walking over and telling Spike Lee to sit down and shut up. And I didn't see that at all last night. I was really hoping when they dove into the Knicks stuff that they were going to jump into that, and that's one of my all-time favorite Bulls clips, and it wasn't there. It broke my heart. So
They had the Jordan dunk on him. That one was just
yeah.
nasty. When he gets up just screaming on top of him like that, it's just the best.
Yep.
Uh,
But even like the Scotty one's my favorite because like obviously Spike Lee sitting there and then him walking over and telling and pointing at him to sit down and to shut up.
Yep.
Pure goal. I hated the Knicks by that. And the other thing I wanted, and this is because I not really a sneakerhead, but I love, different, shoes and stuff. And I love this stuff going in about the Nike relationship and how that came to be. I could watch a whole documentary on that.
Well, and like how
Just-
Adidas like screwed up, just they didn't have a shoe for him, I guess, and then Converse was like, you're not going to be the
can't stop shooting themselves in the foot.
yeah. Like they said, they're in court over stuff with like the college basketball stuff, and this last night was even worse than that.
Yep.
They could have Michael Jordan wanted to sign with them. Like Michael Jordan didn't even want to sign with Nike. His parents made him go to the meeting. They just gave him way more money. It's crazy though how much money they made on the shoes like the first year. Like they made
It's nuts.
and it's kind of funny though like he was saying how the shoes were like not good or whatever. Like couldn't they have modified the shoes to be like look like the air like the shoes but like be a little bit better so Michael Jordan's foot wasn't bleeding? Like I'm like come on, we could have gotten like
give this man some inserts.
yeah,
or
put
something.
some new like I don't know inserts or like I don't know. You just thought that we could avoid a foot bleeding, but
Where's
That was
Dr.
cool,
Scholl's
too.
when you need him?
it is cool though, like to see because I remember those like it's what was it the 2K game that he was in?
Mm-hmm.
I remember that those were they said the first time that he played at Madison Square Garden because he said that was his favorite place to play. So that was really cool to go into. They said he's a billionaire because of his shoe brand and like it was kind of disappointing that like it was what was it it was Air Jordan because of like the shoe itself like had some like air thing and it wasn't because
their new soul that
The
they
air
Yeah.
soles, yeah.
they could have left that out. I just wanted to think it was because he like literally glided through the air. That's what I would think.
I just
Looking
thought
ahead,
that
next,
was awesome,
That's
though.
why the marketing worked. That's why.
Yeah,
you know.
that's
Where it
true.
worked.
Worked out perfect. Next week is week 4, episodes 7 and 8. Looking ahead, what are some things that you guys are looking most forward to as we near the end?
Like I was saying, I if you guys are ever interested, Mondays at 3:00 on Waddle and Sylvie, they have the director of The Last Dance because for some reason I think him and Waddle had seen each other before, talked before, and then he came on the preview the first week, and now he's coming on every Monday. So he was saying that episodes 7 and 8 really go into like Michael Jordan as a teammate and Michael Jordan as like an opponent and how he really fed off his opponents and stuff. And it's gonna be able to see like how crazy he really was, like how he really fed up because you've already seen it before. Just a little thing like anyone Jerry Krause wanted to bring to the Bulls or even thought about like. And you played him, he was going to lock you down and he was going to score 60 points on you. Like he just had that ability. If he didn't like you or if you made him mad, he could just go off for as many points as he wanted. So I'm looking forward to that and just kind of seeing what really went into Michael Jordan because you're kind of seeing like the championships and like you guys were kind of saying like the celebrities they had like Jerry Seinfeld on there, but it's really nice to know like what really he thought about when he played.
Yeah, I agree. I think that'll be cool. I'm looking forward to that a lot. I think that probably my favorite part of next week's episodes will be the way he was. Like you've heard all the stories and legends of Michael Jordan with his teammates and opponents, but to see it up close would be really cool. But I'm looking forward to seeing the stuff about his first retirement. I want to know. Like, obviously, he plays baseball. I'm hoping to dive into that a little bit and the decision to come back and what like drove him to want to come back, because it wasn't just the fact that he wasn't great at baseball. They want to come back and excel at something. Like there were a lot of reasons to come back, and I hope they dive into that because I think that's going to be really interesting.
For sure. I think that's a good point. I think the one thing that I'm looking forward to the most in these last 2 weeks, the last 4 episodes, kind of goes to Maddie's point is the in-game stuff. And I think as they get like in the 97-98 season on the timeline, they're like starting to get to the playoffs. And I'm hoping for, as much of the in-game, like in the locker room footage. Obviously all the other stuff is great, but I could just take pure in-game, him talking to his teammates in the huddle, in the locker room, in practice. Like if we're going to hammer home this playoff picture for the last 4 episodes, I want as much of that as humanly possible.
I think you will too, because I think it really gets into like just what his teammates kind of thought of him, because they had like a sneak preview on Sports Center like right after, and it was kind of like going into the Steve Kerr getting punched and everything. So
Yeah.
I think that's really going to start getting into like what his teammates really thought of him.
Definitely. Maddie, what about you?
Mine, I mean, I'm looking forward to a couple things. One, I'm curious to see how deep they go into everything with his dad's murder.
I was going to say
that's
that too.
going to be lining up here too within the way of timeline shaping up. It should be in the next week. Ultimately, down the road, I'm almost thinking, dude, like at this point, and what this documentary is making me realize is at some point, 25, 30 years from now, there's going to be a movie similar to The Sandlot for basketball where kids are going to be glorifying Michael Jordan the same way kids did Babe Ruth at one point, where it's just going to be a mythical figure. And the cool thing for us is we've gotten to either see it, or we're seeing the videos, or we know the stories now, how it's unfolded, fresh. This is not going anywhere. He's not going anywhere. And the lore of Jordan is going to be around for decades. And this kind of thing is really setting that into me. It's really clicking with me that this thing is, he's an icon. And, it's our generation's Babe Ruth is kind of what I'm thinking.
And it adds to it that he was a Chicago Bull. Like he was on our favorite team. Like we kind of, I said we were younger or whatever. I was like 3, and you guys remember it. But like he was on the Chicago Bulls. Like that's what everyone's getting to see through this documentary. So that's even, I think, makes it a little cooler for us too.
It's been everything I could have hoped it's been. I could have hoped out of it.
It's been great. It's been great.
Well, we have 2 weeks left. We have 4 episodes. We will be here every Tuesday morning with a recap episode. Boys, anything else from week 3, episodes 5 and 6?
No, I'm just sad that we only have 2 weeks left.
I know. I'm really hoping at the end of the last episode, they're like, psych, we actually have 20 episodes. And here's
give us like bonus.
I need the bonus,
which is tough. It's the only thing that I'm a little nervous about is like I think they just finished episode 10. Like they've recently just finished episode 10, so I'm a little afraid that they haven't had time to work on any of the bonus footage.
Let's get the director's cut like come Christmas time then or something.
Definitely.
That's what they were. Well, that's what kind of brought up that Sylvie brought that up to the director, and he was like, "We literally just finished it. Like it's been like 3 years of us trying to put this together. And it's pretty crazy how long it has been."
They said the stuff with Kobe was done 10 days before he died. So if that tells you where they were,
well, no, the editing on it. The editing on it was finished. Yeah, the editing on it was finished like 10 days before the accident.
In January, and they're halfway done with it by then,
And that's episode 5,
right?
Yeah, for sure. Well, that was our week 3 recap. Like I said, follow me on Twitter at BoomyTCF. Follow the main page at typical_Chicago. Hit us up on any social media you have, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Make sure you go over to the YouTube page and subscribe to the page there for all of our content videos. All the podcasts are on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, so you can catch us there. Thank you. A big thank you to our sponsor, Lodi Tap House in Maple Park and Utica. make sure you hit them up on Facebook and get some food to go this week. And while you're at the one in Maple Park, pick yourself up a growler or a crowler for all your beer needs to go along with your delicious food. Get yourself a burger, get yourself some cheese curds, and get yourself a growler of beer. You can't go wrong. Like I said, from me at Boomy TCF, Zach at Z Alilia TCF, Matt at schools_01, and Game Boy at TCF Game Boy. That was episode 3, week and 3, episodes 5 and 6 recap. We love you all.
Peace.
See you.